Midnight tomorrow, guys. That's the deadline. And this fight here to keep funding for Planned Parenthood, it just isn't over. Mark, why is everyone, you, me, Chris, everyone else out there, funding an organization that right now is under investigation for the sale of unborn babies' body parts? Well, this is a big issue. I mean, at the very least, why not put a moratorium on funding until lawmakers figure out if they're actually in violation of the law or not?
Well, because the Democrats are going to use this issue to demagogue and avoid that, right, because of their base. They're trying to play to their base, and they want to keep Planned Parenthood funding to continue on. It's outrageous that we're funding it. But I'd have to tell you something, Trish. I can give you a dozen good reasons why we should threaten a government shutdown, okay? And it has to do with our debt ceiling, has to do with the fact, look, instead of Grayson's bill, how about we just balance the budget every year, okay? And get folks in Congress in Washington to live by the same rules that people around their kitchen tables across America have to live by. Okay, which is live within our means. Wow. That would be a much better way to do it. But look, I can give you a dozen reasons why we ought to shut this government down. It's sending a message. And let me tell you something. The voters who want an outsider for president next year in the GOP race, the 61%, they would like to see at least a fight. Let's at least have a fight over it and show that we're willing to fight.
Can I just jump in here and just try to think about what our founders intended when they created a republic and not a democracy here? We have a republic where both sides need to come to the table and compromise. One side kicking and screaming and saying that they're not going to even talk about keeping funding in or find an alternative here and saying they're going to shut down the government over and over again, Chris, is not what our founders intended. I agree
with you.
I think it's not leadership.
Our founders didn't intend to have career politicians, people who go to Washington and are beholden to all of these lobbyists. And let me tell you, even nonprofits like Planned Parenthood are not exempt or immune from this. Take a look at these numbers, guys. I think it helps to explain why some Democrats may be rallying around Planned Parenthood so much. And it shows you, as I said, not even the nonprofits are immune from all of this. Take a look. You can see the amount of money, I believe we have it to show our viewers, the amount of money going to Democrats in the election cycle. 2012, $1.2 million coming from Planned Parenthood. Versus what they gave Republicans, $26,000, and in 2014, $892,000.
That's the revolving door.
Hold on a minute.
The revolving door politics.
This is when you,
and I'm with you. You know what? No, our founding fathers did not intend for a lot of stuff that's happening right now, Chris, to be happening in Washington, including all that money from special interests, and Planned Parenthood is one of them.
But there's special interests on both sides of the aisle. And until we have serious campaign finance reform, that's what we're going to have. We're going to have people who are interested in what the government spends its money on, spending money to get people that agree with them elected. It happens on the right and it happens on the left.
Okay, but wait a second, though, Trish.
It should be funded by the public.
There are special interests on both sides, but wait a second. What do we as a nation stand for when we're willing to fund with $500 million of my money and your money going towards an organization that is clearly violating the law, okay, is extracting viable fetuses to keep their organs intact?
I'm going to jump in. We don't know that. We suspect there are some suspicions
so we suspect
about it, and
they
it's under
are.
investigation. So I just look at it as a taxpayer, and look, every dollar counts,
Fair enough.
right? Why am I funding an organization that's under investigation?
Fair enough. If they're under investigation, let's stop funding them for now until the investigation is completed.
Why are we funding a lot of organizations that are under investigation in this country? Why am I funding railroad museums in Pennsylvania when I could be funding child care?
I agree. So let's put them all aside right now.
Yeah,
so let's resolve this
with these kinds of expenses, and they come in from everybody.
I'm glad that we could decide this. We're just not going to fund anything that's under investigation.
Let's stop funding them, and let's stop funding Planned Parenthood until the investigation is over with. Okay? And then, look, the ones who are demagoguing this are the Democrats. The Republicans, unfortunately, don't have a spine, and the Democrats don't have any shame in this fight.
That's actually something that Ted Cruz basically... Do we have that sound we can play for you real quick? Ted Cruz there on the floor yesterday saying exactly that. Listen to this.
I will give President Obama and the Senate Democrats credit. They believe in principles of big government. They believe in this relentless assault on our constitutional rights, and they are willing to crawl over broken glass with a knife between their teeth to fight for those principles. Unfortunately, Leadership on my side of the aisle does not demonstrate the same commitment to principles.
Right.
Okay, there he goes.
Right.
So in other words, the Democrats will defend big government at any cost, but here you are in a situation, Mark, where the Republicans are not defending small government enough.
Look, it's why John Boehner has stepped aside. It's because he couldn't manage the factions and just come to some uniformity within the Republican Party on what we should be standing for. Let me remind you, when Ted Cruz led the fight of the government shutdown last time, a year later, the Republicans took over the U.S. Senate. It's because Americans want to see that there's something worth fighting for in Congress.
And
they don't see that out of the Republican leadership.
Of this country, Ted Cruz needs to learn to get a consensus from people who don't always agree with him. Ted Cruz has never learned that. He didn't learn it at Princeton. He didn't learn it at Harvard. He didn't learn it in the Senate. He's not going to be president. He's not a leader.
He's standing for principles, and that's what people want to see.
Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Trish.